Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Know Your Rights Community Forum. Again, this forum will be facilitated in English. We do have interpretation into Spanish, Korean, and Vietnamese. Uh, my name is Araceli Chavez. I am the manager for family community engagement with Anaheim Union High School District, and I'm happy to be helping with this effort to get this information out to our community. We have a lot of community partners in the room that we'll be introducing as we go along in the presentation today. I do want to let you all know that we will go through our presentation, give the information, and then at the end of the presentation, we will have a session for questions that you can ask our immigration attorney as well as our community partners. I want to start off by introducing our AUHSD cabinet members. We have Dr. Jared Freed, our Assistant Superintendent of Education with us, and Robert Saldivar, I think I saw earlier. He is our Executive Director for our Education Division. At this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Freed to tell us a little bit about what Anaheim is doing to make sure that we are keeping students and our families at the forefront during these times and making sure that they are feeling safe and welcome. Dr. Freed.
Thank you, Araceli, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you, and I'm so grateful to all of you for making the time to be here with us tonight to talk about such important information to ensure our families and our students have they're equipped with the information they need to be able to keep themselves safe and navigate through these challenging and in certain cases uncertain times. I want to first begin by I think we said it earlier, but I'm going to be talking a little about the work that Anaheim has done, but I want to give a big shout out to, I know we have our board president, Brian O'Neill, on the call, along with Anne Marie Randall Trejo, one of our other trustees. Kenny, I know, is going to keep me updated if other board members join the call, but we are so grateful. Our board has been very forward thinking and very aggressive in being able to provide this support to our community. And, at the heart of our work as a district, we really do believe genuinely that we are community schools. We do believe that our schools really serve as the hub of the community, and it is our charge, our responsibility, and this obligation to really make sure that we are doing everything in our power, everything we can to best serve our families and students, right? And working closely with our community. And so to that point, this work and the focus of our conversations this evening really center around our way of trying to support our families and students given the challenging times that we find ourselves in and the pending policies coming at the federal level. Our board, to their credit, early on adopted a board resolution, which really calls out that our district is committed to educating all students, regardless of immigration status. They talk about the rights of education for all students. And so this board resolution not only called out the concept that our board is committed to protecting and serving our students and families, but it also led us to then adopt a board policy. So the board policy that our board adopted really talks about the way that we're going to be enforcing immigration and immigration policies that are coming from the federal level and how we as a district are going to do that. And I want to make it very clear that our board, along with our district staff, and I know I'm here also speaking on behalf of our superintendent, we are deeply committed to making sure that we keep our students and our families safe and that we protect information. The board policy talks about a number of protocols and procedures that we as a site and district schools are expected and obligated to follow. As an ed staff, we have met with our principals, and I do want to give a shout out. I know we have a handful of principals on the call tonight, so I'm appreciative to all of you for being here in your evening to support our families and show your support by being here, along with even our ed staff. I see a lot of our ed staff directors and coordinators who are here, so thank you to all of you for making time to be here. But we have trained our principals and our sites to be able to follow the protocols and procedures that are outlined in the board policy that was approved. And I want to highlight just a couple of key aspects of the board policy and the work that we as a district have done to position our schools to protect students and families as it relates to these policies and what's happening at the federal level. As I shared, our first priority is to make sure that our commitment to a safe environment. We want to make sure students and families feel safe, connected, heard, seen, valued, and that they're given the information they need to make sure they keep themselves safe. I mentioned the rights to an education. We deeply believe that all students, regardless of immigration status, are entitled and have the rights to that free and appropriate first best education. So we're honoring that commitment to protect all of that for each of you. In this piece, we also want to talk about the right of privacy. We do not share any information with folks when they come to us. We don't give information. If an ICE agent were to come to our schools, we do not provide any information. The only thing that we are obligated to do by law is if someone comes to us with a court-ordered document signed by a judge. That is it. So even a ICE warrant is not sufficient. We do not follow through with any ICE warrants. It has to be a court-ordered document signed by a judge. That is it. One of the things we've been talking about with our principals and our sites is regardless of this, we've always talked about the customer service as a top priority for our district. But in these times, we've doubled down on that customer service. And what we've talked about is with families, right, especially families who are anxious, nervous, or feeling vulnerable regarding immigration and with the possibility of being deported, to make sure families have a contingency plan. So one of the things that we've talked about with families is to be proactive and develop that contingency plan. One of those things is to make sure that you update your emergency contacts. And although the typical family may have 3 or 4 folks on their emergency contacts, we have shared with our staff that if a family wants to come in and have 10, that is perfectly okay. We want you to be able to identify people within your family who you anticipate being here, along with neighbors or friends who, if again, God forbid, something happens, that you want to be able to make sure your families know that something happens. These people are safe to come pick up my student. We want you to feel empowered to update your emergency contacts with as many folks as you feel necessary, so that way we have folks that we can contact in the unlikely, hopefully never event that you are not able to pick up your child. The other thing we talked about is with this emergency preparedness concept is you're going to hear tonight from our friends. And I want to give a big, big shout out to our partners and our community partners. I know we have Julio on the call. I want to thank you, Julio, for being here and for your leadership and support of our families and our community. I also know we have Lisa Ramirez here, one of our attorneys who's been working tirelessly with our community. So super grateful to the two of you and the work that you're doing to support our families and our students. We are forever grateful to you and your leadership and your support. But you're going to hear from them with a number of things that you can do to protect yourselves and your families. One of the things that we as a school talk about is this concept of a caregiver affidavit. You'll hear more about a power of attorney and some of those other concepts, but for the purpose of our schools, we have a caregiver affidavit form within our district that you can pick up at the school offices. I believe it's also online. This caregiver affidavit allows you to identify someone who, in your absence, can serve as the caregiver for your student or students. Right? This caregiver affidavit provides you with, and that caregiver with certain protections and rights. Right? First of all, it gives them access to medical decision making. So if you're in a position where you're not here or you're unable to support your student, this caregiver affidavit gives that person the ability to make medical decisions with and for your students. It also establishes residency. So allows the student to remain in our schools, establish residency, and also allows the student to remain safely in our schools where you're not worried about, well, now that they're not here, they have to be placed somewhere else, right? So that's a super important piece too. And then lastly, with the parent not here, that caregiver affidavit can also give that caregiver that you identify the ability to make educational decisions with your student as well. So I want to stress to you that if you haven't done so, to complete a caregiver affidavit and just have it in your back pocket, so that way, should something happen, we can make sure that we provide that support to you and your family. You can also turn that in with the idea that if something happens, we then begin to honor your wishes. So again, that's part of that contingency plan and that preparedness, right? We always say, when the better prepared you are, the easier things will be. God forbid we're ever in a circumstance when things come about that we're not wanting to happen. So I would encourage you to make sure you're doing that. The other thing I want to talk about that I think is important is our district is very active in the community and staying engaged and staying connected to what's happening. As you know, things are ever changing at the federal level. And so I'm really proud of our team. I want to give a quick shout out to Carlos Hernandez, who I think is on the call, our Director of Family and Community Engagement and Community Schools. We also have Kenny Perez, who you see on the screen, right? He's our Community School Manager. And then you heard Araceli Chavez earlier, our Family and Community Engagement Manager. The three of them collectively are super engaged and involved with things happening at the county level and even at the state level. And so they're part of different coalitions and being updated regularly on things that are changing and being given current guidance. So then we as a district can stay ahead of what's happening to make sure our parents and our students are equipped. And as we hear information from them, we continue to update our site principals so they can also update their site teams. So we're trying very much to be proactive and stay ahead of what is happening to ensure we have the most current information, and we're doing everything within our power per the board's direction to keep all of you safe and to keep you best informed. So I am super grateful to our team. I'm grateful to our partners, but I'm also grateful to you as parents for being here and really taking this the next step to arm yourselves and your families with the information you need to keep yourselves safe. So again, I can't thank you all enough for being here. I want to be mindful of time. Kenny, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I know you'll introduce our partners who are now going to go deeper into some of the things that families and students can do to protect themselves. And again, thank you to our staff who are making the effort to be here tonight to support our families.
Thank you so much, Dr. Freed. And yes, thank you to our partners. This work wouldn't be possible without all of us coming together. And so there's so much information we want to share, and we want to share the stage with Julio, who is here to share information on Know Your Rights. Julio, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, here we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Well, being that Dr. Fried already took half of what I was going to say, which is a blessing, I'm gonna do a very short look. Thank you for the opportunity to inform our community. None of us can do any of this work by ourselves. It takes a whole village to really protect our kids and our families as we move forward. And one thing I want to uplift some of the things that you said. Look, everything is changing every single day. There's probably a press conference as we speak that something will change by the time we're done in this presentation. So I can attest that my own presentation has changed 10 times since we started. Lisa's has probably changed, and so on and so forth. But look, we're kind of learning together and also shifting what we're doing and saying and for the best of our communities. So again, this is as updated as 6 o'clock as we speak. Things will be changing. So let's hit the next slide. So I'll be briefly going through some of our what are the things that we need? So look, the Orange County Immigration Coalition is a coalition of faith leaders, elected officials, nonprofits, service folks, schools, etc., that we got together really trying to identify how we can serve our community and what are the things that we can actually do, right? So look, the first thing, if any agent comes to your door, whether it be the door of your home or the door of your vehicle or even your school district, you do not have to open that door. You can maintain that door closed. Dr. Fried mentioned, if somebody comes with an actual court order, right, and everything else and all the paperwork is in order, well, guess what? We'll get into that. But the fact is, over 90% of the time that ICE comes knocking at your door, they're not going to have that appropriate paperwork that's legally signed and binding, right? So again, don't open your door. The second piece is even if somebody wants to carry on a conversation with you, please don't say anything. You have the right to remain silent. And that applies to everything we're doing. They can ask you a million questions, and usually people get into deportation proceedings or get arrested because they probably said, the officer might ask you, where are you from? When did you get here? How'd you cross? And people unfortunately answer properly and not answer because they don't want to lie. So guess what? They self-incriminate. So that's always a very hurtful thing for them as they have those conversations. The other piece is you have the right to two different phone calls, one being your consulate of origin. For example, I myself and my family are Mexican, so we can call the Mexican consulate. You know, they have a emergency contact number that you can call, and the other entity that you can call is your own attorney. Of course, we highly recommend Lisa and other private attorneys, but if you do not have resources to get the services of an attorney, there's a lot of nonprofits that we'll get into that offer free legal advice and also provide free legal help. Now, keep in mind that during this time, a lot of our lovely nonprofits are really maxed out, and you might not be able to get an appointment for the next few months. Okay, but in other words, if you call Lisa or a different private attorney, you might get a call right away and you might get in right away. So again, we're trying our best. So please be patient with all the nonprofits that are out there trying to assist you. So again, there's free legal advice out there. If you happen to get arrested, you have the right to call both the consulate and your attorney. The other piece is please do not sign anything that either you do not understand or that you're not able to read, or you just don't understand what it's about, right? Usually forced deportations is what happens. They give you a piece of paper, you don't understand it, you sign it, and there you go, you get deported. So again, all those pieces are critically important. And in this process, please get all your paperwork in order. What does that mean? For example, if you have kids, get their birth certificates. If they're U.S. citizens, of course, please get them an American U.S. passport. Why? Because all these paperwork right now, they might not be traveling today, but they might need to travel in the future, right? If something happens to you or your family. Can I get the next slide? So these are some of the rights that you currently have. The next piece is if somebody actually comes to your door, right? Somebody comes to your door, it's the same 5, 6 different things. You have the right not to open the door. In the meantime, somebody's knocking on your door. Hopefully, you know your neighbors. Call your neighbors, let them know. Ask them, hey, who's outside of my door? And make sure that the neighborhood knows what's going on so they can also be safe. The other piece is if they're actually trying to attempt to have a conversation with you, stay silent. During this time period, look, if you're being interviewed by any law enforcement, people might get nervous. So try to keep as calm as possible. And if you concern yourself with what's going to happen in terms of the worst case scenario, then maybe the worst case scenario will happen. But again, maintaining your silence and keeping your composure is critical. And keeping your composure also means don't run, don't do things that, you don't fight any of the officials. And again, please don't break the law. Unfortunately, for example, there right now, a lot of law enforcement, whether it be Anaheim PD or Santana PD, has come out and said they're not going to be collaborating with ICE, and that is accurate. But now, if you get arrested with a DUI or some other, activity, guess what? Once you get out of jail, ICE might be outside waiting for you. Okay, that is not collaborating with ICE. That's just following the law. So please follow the law. Make sure that you're following everything perfectly. Please don't drink and drive, as always, and don't do things that will jeopardize not just yourself but your whole family. Again, think twice before signing anything, etc. Can I get the next slide, please? To remember, we'll do the following one, please. Okay. The easy way to understand all this is really, maintain your silence, right? In any language, right? Just maintain your silence. Don't open the door for anybody that you really don't know, especially if they don't have a warrant. Don't sign anything that you don't understand before you speak with an attorney. Please contact your attorney. And again, don't run. Don't do any activity that otherwise would jeopardize your ability. Can I get the next slide, please? This is a sample warrant, and there's 3 spaces that are highlighted. If you can, kind of see them from there. One is the first step. You have to see who it's coming from, right? It'd be in this situation in ICE. On the bottom part, it really shows that it has to be signed, right? It's signed by an actual judge, right? And the other piece is also make sure that the name coincides with your name or whoever they're trying to find, right? Those are some of the pieces that we really before we would really train people on. Make sure to ask for a warrant, to make sure to read it, etc. But now look, at the end of the day, if federal agents comes to your door and they actually have the legal paperwork, they might actually just knock down your door if they really have all the right paperwork, because that's their right to actually do that. The likelihood is that they really don't, So again, this paperwork, we provide that just so you can see it. But the next slide, please. The next slide is really developing what we call a family preparedness plan, and that goes in terms of individual plan, a family plan, and a community plan. The individual plan is, like I had mentioned, get all your paperwork in order, right? What does that actually mean? If you happen to be of Mexican descent, for example, and you don't have any form of ID, go get your ID. Make an appointment with the Mexican consulate, get your information, or with any consulate, try to get some sort of identification. In addition to that, get your kids as much documentation as possible. Already, Dr. Freed mentioned for the the caregiver affidavit. I already put it in the chat where you can download it and fill it out and turn it into your educators so they have that paperwork, but also have somebody, additional people for emergency contacts that are there. Those are some of the individual plans. Furthermore, in terms of a family plan, we're working diligently with the whole Orange County coalition to really do power of attorney letters, which allows the parents to provide another person with the power in case they're deported or they're longer here for whatever reason, that they're able to execute whatever they need with the child. Okay, so we'll be bringing some of those services to you all once we get enough volunteers, and so Araceli and others in the school district will let you know when we're ready to do those power of attorney letters throughout the community. And then lastly, what is that family and community plan? And that family and community plan is, I know the school district is doing their best to protect our kids, but it's also on us to really develop with our neighbors and other folks, know who's out there, what they're kind of doing, and how we can get more involved. Can I get the next slide, please? This is a list of a wide range of resources, okay, stemming from consulates, right? So we have 2 consulates on there. If you'd like Know Your Rights, the next slide will be about Know Your Rights. You can go on the Immigration Legal Resource Center, and they have a great toolkit on, you can print those out from home and carry those red cards with you, so you have more information on that. So this is a sample of the red cards that are available through ILR, and you can get those. And I know your schools and districts have some. I don't know if you still have those available. Can we go back to the other slide? Yeah, there you go. And for example, the Orange County Justice Fund does a great job. If you need to bail somebody out of ICE detention, they provide some support and funds in a type of a loan. And then if you actually see ICE and you would like to report them to a community organization, the Orange County Rapid Response Network has been doing a great job. If you call them, the website is on there. They're also on Instagram and Facebook. They also have a local phone number that you can call and say, hey, I saw him over here on Harbor and Lincoln, and they will dispatch people to go verify if they're actually there, and also do a community announcement so people are aware that there was some activity in that area, and maybe people can either avoid it or just be aware of what's going on. But furthermore, if somebody is detained and is in jeopardy, they will follow up and support the family across the board. And then, of course, your district already did a resource flyer, so if you can copy that, you'll have a lot more resources that are currently available. Can we jump 2 slides, I think? So then the next one. Oh, with that, I pass it on to Lisa. Look, overall, thank you for the opportunity. There's a lot of more activity coming forward, and we just want to protect our kids. But let me pass it on to Lisa Ramirez, which has been an amazing attorney, has been working with us, and you're on, Lisa. Thank you. Lisa is muted, so there we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Julio. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening. We've been doing these forums together, honestly, since before the inauguration, because it's really important that everyone is educated, equipped, and empowered with good information. So I just want to kind of give a snapshot before we get into some of the government priorities and important points that I'd like to make with you this evening. And that is that here in Orange County, as many of you already know, we are an extremely diverse community. We have mixed status families. We have people, with temporary status, naturalized U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and 30% of our population is actually foreign born. And that might surprise some people. 47% speak a language other than English at home, and there's about 236,000 Orange County residents that are undocumented, most of which are adults. And about 33% of those adults have at least one U.S. citizen child under the age of 18. So I just want to commend the school district because they are obviously looking out for what's in the best interest of your child. It's imperative and important that you continue to send your child to school. Do not be afraid. Do not stop sending them to school because of fear. It's very important that they continue their education. So, coupled with the information that Julio just went over, in addition to knowing what your constitutional rights are, these are constitutional rights that are available not just for immigrants. This is for anyone who is physically present in the United States, regardless of your status. So, knowing your rights will help you understand what the government can and cannot do in their enforcement efforts. Secondly, but equally importantly, is to understand what our government's priorities are. So first off, I will say, as Julio already mentioned, super important to really avoid any trouble with law enforcement. Some of you may have heard on the news in January the announcement and signing of the legislation by the name of the Laken Riley Act. This really created some significant changes for our country in the sense that we're used to, people being innocent until proven guilty. With the change of this law, basically any arrest or accusation would be sufficient for Immigration Customs Enforcement officials to apprehend an individual and to subject them to mandatory detention, meaning they will not get out of custody. And it could be minor offenses like petty theft, offenses that cause great bodily injury, things of that nature. So there's a list of convictions or charges, I should say, that would constitute apprehension and mandatory detention. So please be sure we want to stay out of trouble. Obviously, people who have charges or convictions are a priority, especially those with serious convictions. And I want to say that affects, basically everybody and anybody that's not a U.S. citizen. So this includes lawful permanent residents. It includes people with non-immigrant visas. So we're having a lot of people, even after traveling, coming back into the United States and being sent into secondary inspection because of a very, very old arrest. It's not even always a conviction, a charge that may not have resulted in a conviction. So if you have any criminal history whatsoever, I highly encourage you to speak with an immigration attorney so you can understand what risks might be involved should you travel outside the United States, or if you should apply for a benefit such as your permanent residency and U.S. citizenship. So I say that basically not to discourage people, because I really think it's very important that we continue to apply for the benefits that, folks are statutorily entitled to. So please apply for permanent residency. Please apply for citizenship. You just want to be extra careful if there's any criminal history involved. Also, individuals who have final orders of deportation or removal, right? So these are individuals who already had their day in court. They had the opportunity to apply for a defense, and the judge ultimately ordered them removed from the United States. So those individuals that failed to depart, or perhaps they departed but came back unlawfully, those would be a second category of people that the government is prioritizing. Thirdly, individuals who pose a risk to public safety or national security. And then lastly, and this is kind of a recent change that took place about a week or so ago, is individuals who have entered the United States within the last 2 years. So the government is aware and has eliminated a lot of even the lawful parole programs that Biden put into place. And so that means individuals who may have entered on humanitarian parole, or the parole for Cubans and Haitians and Nicaraguans and Venezuelans, have been terminated. And so they're really going to start exercising an authority that they used to only use at our borders, that allows them to basically deprive someone due process rights of having their case heard before a judge if they've been here for less than 2 years. So in addition to carrying a valid form of ID, right, really important to have ID with you at all times, whether it's a California ID or California driver's license. If you don't have that, carry your foreign government identification, whether it's a passport or a government ID, consular ID card. And the reason for that is because ICE can take individuals down to the station for identification purposes. If they do have a warrant, for example, they want to make sure that you are who you say you are, then they can take you down for that. So eliminate that reason for them to apprehend anyone. Carry your ID, whether it's a U.S. government issued ID or an ID issued by your foreign government. You're also going to want to make sure you carry some sort of proof or evidence that you've been in the United States for more than 2 years. So something from 2023, would suffice. It could be a bill, it could be a receipt of some kind. As long as it has your name and a date, then they will not be able to automatically remove you from the United States without allowing you to see a judge. I want to talk very briefly about some executive orders. First and foremost, I'm sure many of us heard in the news about the president's attempt to eliminate birthright citizenship, meaning for those born in the United States, they would not be U.S. citizens. I think his legal team, as well as he and others, know that that is not something that can be done by executive order. The president needs to the president has no authority whatsoever to make that sort of amendment to our Constitution. It would require 66 2/3 of the Congress to agree with any amendment. In addition, 75% of our states would need to agree. So again, now 5 courts have already ruled that executive order is blatantly unconstitutional. It'll probably continue to rise again to our appellate courts. We'll have to wait to see what happens, but we know where our Constitution stands for the time being. But again, some of these efforts are really sending strong messages out to our community, right? Despite the fact that they may not be legally valid, it's certainly contributing to a lot of the fear and anxiety that people have. Another recent executive order, or something that resulted from a previous executive order, is the alien registration requirement. So we get a lot of calls and concerns about this as well. So again, it was an announcement, and that's really all it is. There's not an office or a form or a process or funding, for that matter, that is available yet to possibly implement any sort of registration. We have to wait right now for the time being and see what rules or regulations may come forth. But as of right now, there is no place, even if you wanted to go register today, where you can do that. Third, I want to talk about schools and churches are no longer off limits for ICE. I know that also created a lot of concern. And what people need to understand is that that is the same policy that existed pre-Biden. So just like the Trump administration has his priorities, one of Biden's priorities was to basically not enforce our immigration laws at schools and churches. So given that that policy has now been reversed, it doesn't change the legal requirements for ICE to be able to enter private spaces, right? So there's difference between public spaces and private spaces. Public spaces are basically spaces where any of us can go to, whether it's, sidewalks, you're walking on the streets, or parking lots, dining areas, waiting rooms, or lobbies, things of that nature would be considered public spaces. But in terms of like places on campus for your child, classrooms, no one can walk through a campus. They're very locked down. They're very secure. People have to check in at the office, be registered as a visitor to be able to go past that initial office. So understand that your children are very safe at school. Now, the only concern folks need to be paying attention to is when you leave a private space and go into a public space, whether that means you're walking or leaving the school premises. But again, just because ICE may be in a public space does not give them the right to randomly arrest individuals. So if you utilize those rights that Julio mentioned, you've got the right to remain silent. You don't need to answer questions. You don't need to offer information about your immigration status. You don't need to sign documents, and you have the right to call your attorney. Then you will be fine, right? We need to be alert. We need to be aware, but we don't need to, live our lives in fear. We obviously know already that the border has essentially been shut down. There's no asylum seekers being admitted. And we also know that it's very hard to get visas and benefits at this moment. Julio's already covered most of this information. I just wanted to highlight something about the caregiver's authorization affidavit. That is not something, it can be utilized for schools and doctors, but it's not something that you're going to give to the school at this moment. It's something that you're going to use to have a conversation with a family member, and it does require that the person is somehow related to you by family. There's a long list that you can see in the instructions, but you're going to give that to that individual so that if and when, not now, if and when the need arises, they will sign that document, and they can then give it to schools and doctors or anywhere that they would need to demonstrate that they are the caregiver for your child. It's really important that you find an attorney as soon as possible if you don't already have one. An attorney can be helpful in terms of evaluating your case, determining whether you are eligible for any legalization opportunities, but it also can explain why you're not eligible. But for me, the most important reason to have an attorney identified is because in the event that someone that you or someone you love is apprehended or detained, then they already have your information. They will know if you have children born here. They'll know when you enter. They know if you have any status, temporary or otherwise, and they can respond immediately. And so it's really important that you talk to an attorney and identify an attorney who may be able to assist you. Make sure you have the number for an attorney, even if you haven't already consulted with them, just so you have someone to call, because you get 2 calls if you're detained, one to your consulate and one to your attorney. And be very careful not to pay for forms that some attorneys are charging, $1,200, $3,000. I've heard about a Form G28. You do not need to carry any forms with you. It's something that the attorney knows that they can file if the need arises. Now, for those of you maybe DACA recipients or know people who are DACA recipients, what's really important to know and understand is that DACA is not in the hands of the president. It is currently in the hands of the court. So there was a decision that came down at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that deemed some of the provisions of Biden's administration is unlawful in the state of Texas. The other legal issues have been, kind of pushed back down to the district court. We're going to have to wait for the future of DACA to be determined ultimately by the Supreme Court. But in the meantime, please, please, please be sure that you're renewing your DACA application at least 150 days in advance. Do not wait to the last minute. The number of DACA recipients that are losing their jobs because their work permits expire before they receive their new ones, processing times are increasing. So it would be very, very foolish to wait to the very last minute. And it's also important for our DACA recipients to also speak with an attorney if it's been a while, because things have changed in 12 or 13 years. Many of our clients are already U.S. citizens because they've married, they had children born here that were over 21, they had other opportunities to take advantage of, and they've taken advantage of advanced parole, right? The opportunity to travel under the DACA program. So again, you have the rights to remain silent. Please don't give a fake name if you are stopped. It is okay to give your real name. With your name, there's really nothing ICE can do, especially if they do not have a warrant for your arrest. Don't show false documents. Don't volunteer information. Don't sign any documents. And please call your attorney as soon as possible. I'm going to skip through some of this. Please don't ever run if ICE comes to your work. That's another important point to keep in mind. And again, if you or someone you know is detained, please call your immigration attorney. I know Julio touched on these points. I can't emphasize how important they are to be very careful, to not sign blank documents of notaries or attorneys. You need to make sure that you get written contracts, you understand the contract, you get receipts for your payment, and make sure you get copies of whatever product, right, that professional has produced for you. Those are your property. You don't want to basically just take their word that they filed a petition or an application, because many times people, inquire, and we have to check with immigration if there's a petition pending, and lo and behold, nothing was ever filed on their behalf. So please don't let that be you. Make sure you get copies of all the applications, receipt notices, approval notices. But it is not a good idea to carry those documents with you if you have a pending petition or application, because having a pending petition or application is not protection from deportation. So that is evidence really that you do not have legal status, right? Those petitions do not afford you legal status. So you want to be careful that you're not, demonstrating what your status or lack of status may be. And then again, just be very careful of notaries or even attorneys that can't answer your questions. It's better to get a second opinion than kind of go with the first person that you come across. Super important, because I think this is probably one of the biggest kind of messages of fraud in our community, which is if you've been here for a certain number of years, you qualify to legalize your status. It's simply not true. There are defenses available in immigration court that don't exist outside, but I would never send anyone to, immigration court, because many judges do not approve those kinds of applications, and you'll end up in a worse position than you are right now. So just know, if anyone tells you you've been here long enough, there's something that's not right. If you've ever been a victim of fraud, these are 2 agencies, you can take a picture of the slide, that do investigate immigration fraud. They may not investigate every single instance, but they do collect the information, and then they can investigate once there's been a sufficient number of victims that have been defrauded by the same business. Really quickly, I just want to mention 4 quick programs I think are important for people to know about. So first is Parole in Place. That is for individuals that have children, spouse, or parents that are on active duty or veterans of our U.S. Armed Forces. There is a program that can give you protection from deportation and work authorization and the possibility of legalizing your status. Depends on each case is unique, but we would have to evaluate. But it is a possibility of legalizing your status. There's family-based petitions, right? U.S. citizens, spouses, parents, children can file those petitions. Lawful permanent residents can also file petitions for their spouses and their children. But what's really important to know, and a question that we get a lot, is if my child was born here and they're 21, can they file a petition for me? And I always say that's really not a great question. Because yes, of course they can, but the petition does not come with any protection. It doesn't come with any benefit. The real question is, can you legalize your status by or through your U.S. citizen child that's over 21, and really making sure you understand how you qualify. The Violence Against Women's Act, otherwise known as VAWA, is a program not just for women, it's also for men that have been emotionally, physically, or verbally abused by their U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, spouse, parent, or child, that they can legalize their status without the help of the abuser. And then there's also the U visa for individuals who have been victims of violent crimes, and that have been helpful and useful to law enforcement in the investigation or the prosecution of those crimes. Other points that I want to mention is that if individuals did not enter the United States legally after April 30th, 2001, and they did not have, if they did not enter illegal, or they did not have a petition filed on or before April 30th, 2001, then they will not be able to legalize their status in the United States based on a family petition. Also, for people who were deported after April 1st, 1997, and never left or came back illegally, cannot legalize their status either. And then lastly, if you have a U.S. citizen child with special needs, I get this question all the time, can you legalize your status? And what I say is generally no. This is something that helps as a defense in deportation proceedings, but is not an automatic way in which someone could obtain their permanent residency. Resources Julio shared. So I think that's all for now, and then we'll take some questions at the end. Feel free to write your questions in the chat. Interpreters, if there's questions that perhaps you see in another language, if you don't mind translating those questions in the chat as well, so that we can be sure to get those answered. Thank you.
This is
Thank-
Korean interpreter speaking, Kenny.
Yes.
The chat is only, it's not open to everybody. So I just want to let you know if people
Yes. Just a friendly
write in
reminder.
Korean.
Can everybody hear me? Yes, just a friendly reminder. So the chat is only visible to the hosts. So if you have any questions, and go ahead and type them in your language, I will share them with our interpreters, and then we'll get you an answer for your question. Thank you so much, Attorney Lisa Ramirez. We appreciate you taking the time to share all of this information with us, and really appreciate you. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next segment of our presentation. We have, actually, let me go back really quick. We do have a resource that's available for our families, and this is a live flyer. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. Know that this flyer, it changes with the information that's on there as the information that we receive changes. So this is up to date. I just shared the link. It's available on our website, and it's constantly being updated. So please check it out. It's a resource that's available for you. It has a lot of the information that our wonderful partners have just shared with you, and we'll continue to add as more gets shared with us. But again, this is a resource that's available for you all. All right, and now we have another special guest, another partner that's here to share with us today, and that's Alejandra Garcia, who's here from the Mexican consulate to share some additional information. And as Mr. Julio Perez shared earlier, we do have other consulates that are available that you can reach out to based on your nationality, and they'll also be able to help you. But here tonight is Alejandra Garcia from the Mexican consulate. Alejandra, can you share your screen and unmute yourself, please? Alejandra, are you able to hear me?
Mute. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very, very lightly.
I don't know. I have a problem with my camera in my computer, so I'm using my phone, my cell phone, to see me. And I want to share my screen, right?
Yes, I made you a co-host, so you should be able to do that now. Go ahead and try both of your accounts on here. I have co-host ability. Perfect. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alejandra Garcia from the Protection Department at the Mexican Consulate in Santa Ana. And we have many services for Mexican nationals in Orange County. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we have many services at the consulate. We have a domestic violence assistance. We have many attorneys that you can contact. You don't have to make an appointment. Just bring your matrícula consular or passport. Also, we have a call center in Arizona that can help you to locate people or detain relative that you are looking for. This number is very important. It's CM for this is for Mexican nationals in Arizona, but you can contact them. We have also the Consul App Contigo. If you are in emergency situation, you can press the button. It is very easy to download it in your phone, in your cell phone, Android or iPhone. And if you are in emergency situation, you can press the button and three consulates around you is gonna assist you. Also have information about your rights. This app is very important to download it. And also it's very important the consular notification. If you are on detention, you have the right to ask to contact the Mexican consulate, and we can interview a detained Mexican national by phone or in person. So all the consulates are for notification from the police department too. Also, we have a program pilot that Mexican national can get access for attorneys in terms of labor issues, immigration issues, or domestic violence. If they are being in risk, they can contact the attorney through the consulate. The consultations are free. Just bring your matrícula consular, especially this week. We have many kinds of attorneys, labor in custody of minors too. Tomorrow we're gonna have a lawyer, an attorney who's gonna give some. The attorney is gonna have some information for people who wants to get a consultation during tomorrow between 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. You are welcome to the consulate. And also it's very important that people can be prepared for an emergency situation, be prepared for your personal dates, your health, education, and for other documentation that you may need. For example, you can register your minors if they are born in the United States and one parent of both are Mexican national. They can get the Mexican nationality. You are welcome to go to the consulate to get the requirements and make an appointment for that. And I think that these all the services that we have, and thank you so much for inviting me. And if you have any question, please feel free to contact us. Also, we have an emergency cell phone, 714-504-2796. And if you are in emergency, you can call us and we can assist you. And also we can refer your family to an immigration attorney to evaluate your situation. And we can pay part of the fees with an attorney. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the information, Alejandra. Earlier today we had Council Member Carlos Leon join us for our virtual Know Your Rights meeting. And I don't know if there's somebody here from his office. If you do, just let me know. Otherwise, the message that Council Member Leon shared with our community is that the city of Anaheim is a city that welcomes all individuals and also wants to encourage all City of Anaheim residents to continue to have trust in the emergency services, our police and fire department, as they are not asking any type of information regarding your legal status. So again, this is our council member, Carlos Leon, who joined us this morning. And we have here with us today, we do have a representative from Lou Correa's office, our congressman for the 46th district of the state of California. And we have Cynthia here who shares some information. Cynthia, please go ahead and unmute yourself. You should have the ability to do so now. And go ahead and share your screen, as I know you have a video that you would like to share with us.
Yes, thank you. I'll do that right now. Okay. So as Kenny mentioned, my name is Cynthia. I'm with the Office of Congressman Correa. I work in his district office in Santa Ana. And we just wanted to present a little bit about the type of service that we provide in our office. But before I get into that information, the congressman did record a video that he wanted to share with the community. So I'll go ahead and play that right now.
Congresista Luis Correa, aquí su servidor, Congressman Lou Correa. I want to thank you and welcome you to our Know Your Rights Town Hall. Gracias por estar aquí para emprender nuestros derechos, pero también quiero decir, estamos aquí para decirles, sigan las leyes, make sure you follow the laws. We are here to talk about what the laws are and to obey the laws. At the same time, we are saying that as residents of the United States, you have rights as well as responsibilities. I know back home, yo sé que ahorita en California, en todo el país, hay mucha ansiedad. Todos estamos nerviosos porque este presidente ha declarado que van a ser muchas deportaciones por todo el país. Pero yo estoy aquí para decirles que no pierdan esperanza. Si ustedes han seguido las leyes, se han portado bien, han estado aquí en este gran país trabajando duro para enriquecer este país, tienen hijos aquí en las escuelas, pues este es su país. Y lo que les digo es, no pierdan esperanza de estar aquí. Al mismo tiempo, les voy a decir que tengan cuidado. La situación, digo, está delicada. Pero acuérdense también que esto no es la primera vez que nos han amenazado. Bajo Obama, antes de Obama y los últimos meses de Biden también, muchas deportaciones. La diferencia es que ahorita bajo este presidente ha hecho mucho ruido, ha asustado a nuestra comunidad. Pero acuérdense, no están solos. Aquí estamos para apoyarlos y estamos aquí para decirles, sigan la ley y al mismo tiempo conozcan sus derechos. Vamos a obedecer la ley, vamos a respetar nuestros derechos y vamos a seguir viviendo aquí. Finalmente les digo, las leyes son muy complicadas. Quiero que si pueden, por favor, vayan a buscar un abogado, un buen abogado que los pueda representar en una situación de crisis, ¿verdad? Y ese abogado, aunque ahorita posiblemente no pueda hacer nada, en el futuro si cambian las leyes, ahí tiene su servidor, ¿eh? Entonces, acuérdense, su congresista Luis Correa, para trabajar con ustedes y para estar aquí como familia. Muchas gracias y seguimos adelante, como dice Dios. Y bendito sea Dios que cuida a sus hijos. Muchas gracias.
Okay, so that was Congressman Correa. And then, as I mentioned, he's still in DC today. Tonight was the State of the Union. But here in his office in Santa Ana, we do have some caseworkers in the office that work on a wide range of issues with anything related to federal casework. So the federal agencies, excuse me. So what that means is that every congressional office, not just Congressman Correa's office, has the service of casework, which essentially means that constituents get to reach out to their members of Congress for assistance on anything related to a federal agency, from the most simple to the most complex cases that we see every day. And essentially, we help our constituents deal with the administrative agencies acting as facilitators and in some cases advocates for certain cases. But with all that, we do have some constraints on our services. People like to think that the congressman may have a magic wand that he's able to use to produce favorable outcomes or resulting in like a speedy outcome. Unfortunately, we still have to abide by all the current House, Senate rules, laws, policies that are in place by our federal government. But we do work very closely with the agencies. We have a direct contact at each of the federal agencies that we work closely with to make sure that we're advocating for our constituents, and we are asking them to consider certain situations that some constituents may be experiencing. And most times we can advocate for favorable outcomes. And then the agency has the discretion to decide on that case on what they're going to do. So some of the typical congressional inquiries that we see in our office are explaining government decisions, if they already something like a new executive order came in and how that affected that specific. We can also request information or get a status update on a specific case. So I primarily focus on immigration. So a lot of the times, we have a lot of constituents that come to the office and state, I submitted a application a couple years ago. I have no idea what happened. My attorney didn't explain this to me, or, they are working with a notary public, and unfortunately, they have no idea what happened to their case. So we're able to contact the agency directly, ask for the current status of the case, or if there was kind of any issues, or if USCIS, any immigration agency, made an error on your case, we can directly bring that up with the agency to resolve it. And we can also ask them to consider certain situations and expedite them. So typically we see a lot of that with like our DACA students or any kind of like work permit or travel permits that need to be processed. And we can also produce letters of support in immigration cases and with some court cases when a federal agency is involved. So typically we'll see that with immigration court. And then very quickly, it looks like, okay, here we go. For us, in order for us to contact a federal agency, we do need the constituent's authorization. So they could fill it out in person. Typically, our forms will look like this. It's very catered to immigration if that's the type of assistance that you require. But we essentially ask you to fill the form out. You can come into our office and we help you fill it out as well. Or you can visit our website there and fill it out online. And usually from the time you've made contact with our office, whether it's telephone, website, email, walking into our office, or you found us at an event, that would be the initial point of contact. From there on, we do an intake on the case. We try to gather all the information. We ask you to come into the office, produce documents. A lot of the times it'll be a receipt notice so that we know what type of case you're currently working with. And then from there, we have a case management system where essentially we store all our information. And that is privately owned by the congressman. And then after that, once we're working with the agency, that whole process, it could be typically our response time with the agencies could be as simple as 30 days or less. Sometimes we see a response in 2 weeks. But that's just for like the initial communications with the agency. After that, sometimes I have cases for even a year when someone just literally wants me to check the status every couple months to make sure that everything's okay with their case. And we're more than happy to do that. When we close out the case, we make sure that the constituent is aware of the final response from the agency. And that typically just means that we are closing the case within our office. That does not mean we're closing a case with a federal agency. You still continue that process. It's just that with our office, the service that we produce, that's where that would be us closing the case on our end. And one other thing I wanted to bring attention to is our case work records. All the information that we store in our system that we use is the congressman's property. So no other office can come in and request that information, and we will only share the information that we have with the agency that you signed on that case authorization form approving us to contact. Other than that, all that information will stay stored in our office, and it is the congressman's property. But like I said, we do have an office in Santa Ana, so feel free to give us a call or pay us a visit, and we'd be happy to assist in anything you may need.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for the information that you're sharing, and thank you to the Congressman for the video. We will now transition over to the questions from the chat, and I'll go ahead and ask the questions. We only have a few, and then any of our partners, if you can unmute yourself to answer the question, that would be awesome. There are a few questions in the chat that are very specific to certain cases. I will not ask those questions in this space. I encourage you, and I'll reach out to you to give you the information of our partners that are here today who might be able to answer those questions on a more individual basis. But I appreciate you taking the time to ask those questions nonetheless. All right, question number 1. If I get detained, can my boyfriend get custody of my daughter that is not his, but he can claim her in taxes, but has claimed her in their taxes in the last 7 years, and we live together? So anyone of our
Yeah, I can go ahead and answer that. So it's a little complex in the sense that there's details that we don't know about in terms of, is there a biological father that has parental rights, right? That would trump over a boyfriend's rights. If you were married, he would have more rights as a step parent. If there's no father in the picture, then it would really be a matter of having a power of attorney at the very least, designed for emergency purposes, giving him that authority in your absence, if the fact that you're detained. But it depends on a lot of different factors, like even doing the power of attorney. Again, you can't do it by yourself if you're still legally married to somebody else. If you're a single mother or divorced or a widow, then you can do that power of attorney by yourself. So it's just about making sure we know all the different pieces and the best way to ensure that your child is protected. I would talk to someone.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. And then just having heard that one answer, the other questions are also, there's multiple factors that can come into play. And just to give the accurate information, I think I will just forward those questions, or I will connect those of you asking those questions to one of our partners. That way you can get the information that applies to your individual case. With that said, I want to thank all of our partners for sharing information, and I want to hand it over to our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Freed, who's going to close our meeting for tonight.
Thank you, Kenny. And again, I want to echo what Kenny just said. I want to first begin by thanking all of our partners. So Lisa, Julio, our friends at the Mexican Consulate, Cynthia representing Congressman Lou Correa, and of course, all of our staff, Kenny, Araceli, Carlos, our whole team, our interpreters, for being here tonight to support our families. And of course, I want to thank our board members. We're here for your leadership and your vision, giving us the go-ahead to do this kind of work so important to our families. And of course, I want to thank our families. You're the reason why we're doing this. We care about you, and we want to do everything in our power to support you through these times. So I just can't thank you all enough for your role in supporting our community. And with that, I wish everyone a wonderful night until the next town hall, when perhaps we'll have even more updated information. But thank you all for being here.